Hi, I'm Olaf, and welcome to the all-encompassing guide for lane phase on Olaf. Today I'm going to talk about laning with Olaf. This is strictly for top lane Olaf, however, if you wanted to, you could apply these philosophies that I've made to mid lane as well. Nothing contained here will really apply to the jungle in any sort of fashion here, so sorry if that's what you're looking for. I'm going to start with some generic trading rules and how it applies to your lane phase. Rules of engagement are as follows. First rule is CS comes first, and this is always a given rule. Second rule is maximize damage to minions as well as damage to champions. Rule number 3 is minimize the throwing distance needed for undertow. This is essentially throw undertow as close to you as possible so that you can essentially just pick up the axe. Rule number 4 is don't commit too hard to a trade once you've clearly won it. So if I'm, winning a trade by a lot and I'm still overextending to just do extra damage or something similar, the enemy can potentially punish that, and you don't want that. Rule number 5 is be careful with pushing. When you push, this does a couple of things. It mainly opens you up for ganks, as well as allowing the enemy to potentially CS under turret. Rule number 6, freezing. Freezing is an important concept for Olaf in top lane, as well as top lane in general, and this helps with trades as well as all-ins very much. So freezing is a very important concept that you need to learn. I'm not going to teach you how to freeze in this video, so I guess just go look up what freezing is and then come back. You only really need to understand the concept. You don't have to necessarily know how to do it to understand this video. The last rule is number 7, which is minion wave play. Again, this is also a given. What this consists of is having control of the wave, and by this I mean so the enemy can't go up to CS without you threatening and zoning and basically exerting control over that. That's why you control the wave. Number 2 for wave play is keeping control. Want to maintain control of the minion wave, because then this allows you to stay in that advantageous trading position. The way that you can kind of stand yourself within the lane will maximize the amount of damage you're going to do to minions and maximize the damage you're going to do to champions, as well as allowing you to damage the enemy when they may not be able to damage you. The last part of minion wave play is giving control away. You have to be able to fit in any given situation. So if suddenly the enemy is more powerful than you, or you have like a really big cooldown you're waiting on, like your W or your ultimate or something similar, ghost, whatever, you don't want to be too aggressive. So if a situation like that pops up or occurs, you're going to want to back off and give the enemy champion control of the wave, so that at another moment in time you can seize that control back to yourself once you're in a more advantageous position. Now on to a typical play pattern that you're going to want, as well as describing situations and their solutions and how they apply the rules of engagement. Your typical play pattern that you're going to want to look for is you have control over a wave of minions, and the enemy can't walk into the minions to CS without taking damage from you, or at least having a threat of potentially damaging the enemy. You're very strong at level 1, so you gotta keep that in mind when you're zoning somebody from the wave. While you're zoning, you need to make sure that you punish the enemy whenever they walk into your undertow range. By punish, I specifically mean performing disengage combo and then going boom, right back to the creeps. Because you used abilities, you won't get aggro from the wave. Auto attacking will get you aggro, so you have to be careful, and if needed, you can get aggro, but make sure that you have the superior creep numbers so that your creeps do more damage to the enemy if you both exchange auto attacks. So if you're going to CS, Poppy walks up here. When I first start out here, I'm going to be behind my melee creeps, or like right where the enemy melee creeps are, so that I'm less open to someone coming behind me or coming from a really weird angle I'm not expecting. So I'm just going to sit until I see Poppy. Once I see Poppy, I have the advantage of creeps, so I'm going to be able to stand aggressively behind her melee minions. See, now I have 3, 4 to her 4, even though this one's about to die. I go back to CSing. It's a very, very simple play pattern that you're going to do is you're just standing in a threatening position or a threatening spot to where Poppy's going to have to take damage in order to come up to me. I went and traded with her because I was level 6. And now, because I have the minion advantage, she can't continue the trade. So even though she was higher health, had more minions, where I traded with her, as I retreated, I kept my retreat path within my own minions. So that's typically what your play pattern is going to be throughout the lane, is that you want to set up your minions so that when you fight, you're either in your advantage of your own minions, or if she goes to chase you, she chases you into a shit ton of your minions, and then that creates an advantage. So that was a very, very aggressive stance because I went to Poppy and traded with her in her minions. However, you should just try to trade within the front melee minions. Here are a couple scenarios in which you can't actually perform your typical pattern and what to do in the situation, as well as loosely what rules come into play. Starting with Fiora. With Fiora, you actually have to give up your wave control, or I should say your pressure in which you exert onto Fiora once you have control of the wave. Because in this matchup, her passive plays a very important part in the actual control of the wave. What will happen is you're going to try to attack the minions and hit level 2 before her, and the reason why you can't wholly take the wave is that her passive does a lot of damage to you over time. So the only real way to zone her is to constantly use disengage combo, as well as punishing the use of her Q by using gap closer combo. Only use that when her Q is on cooldown, and then you can get in there with the quick gap close combo and dip out. This is a good example because even though you're stronger than Fiora, your threat zone is larger, and in a longer trade Fiora will win the war. So even though you are mostly in control of the wave and everything, you can't exert the pressure onto her until you've built up a wave that will help you win the deep trade. The rules that come into play most are 2, 3, 4, and 7, and I stress 4 the most in this matchup because you just can't get in too deep of a trade with Fiora because she could just chase you and damage you at the same time via her Q. Another thing to note here too is that, like I said earlier, the rules of 1 and 7 are pretty much a given, but these specific rules are the ones that really shine the most whenever you're actually in this lane. On to Riven. Riven is a difficult matchup because of the early game is mostly dictated on a reaction basis. Since this matchup is top heavy and swings largely after the first kill, you need to be very careful in how you approach the level 1. Yes, you're stronger, and yes, over time you'll kill her, but she has the burst potential that you do not. That being said, you can exert pressure onto her and you can control the wave. However, you cannot go too far in that, since the traits could potentially turn in her favor because of the burst that she has. She can quick in and out do her burst while you still haven't unlocked your ability to do your various combos. Basically, what you do here is get in control of the wave, wait for her to use her Q, give up control of the wave, and then quickly retake it back via your gap closer combo. Don't be scared to auto attack her either when her Q is down. That's the main thing to think about here when you're, again, in and out, giving the wave, releasing the wave, taking back the wave. The rules that come into play most in this matchup are 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's a lot. That's almost all of them. And I stress rule number 5 the most because with a push lane, this gives Riven a very large chasing advantage that she can use long distance to turret to basically flash onto you, kill you, and you can't do anything to prevent it. That is in a even lane scenario. If you are ahead of her, I would stress rule number 2. On to Nasus. This is a special lane since you basically beat Nasus so hard that he will automatically give you control of the wave, and if he doesn't, you're pretty much guaranteed to kill him. With this, you need to maximize the rule of CSing and damaging opponents at the same time. It's very easy in this lane since you can auto attack creeps for CS and then hit Nasus when he walks up to CS with Reckless Swing. Rules that come into play the most in this one is 1, 3, 5, and 6. And I stress rule number 6 the most since this is a Nasus lane. With a push lane, Nasus can CS under turret. With a push lane, this opens you up to ganks, and you can't zone Nasus as well as you can because it's under his turret. And since you can't perform the gap closer combo, so this also shuts off part of your combos, or your ability to perform some combos. So it's like you pretty much can only do disengage combo every single time. On to your level 1. The goal of your level 1 should be a couple of things here. You should make sure you hit level 2 before the enemy. You should axe walk the enemy if possible, and you should also take control of the wave. You hit level 2 before the enemy by basically auto attacking the minions 1 to 3 times. That way, by purely last hitting, the enemy minions will die sooner than yours just because they have lower health. Axe walking is the technique in the guide that I show. It will always be applicable, but it also allows you to gain control of the wave as well as put you at a very nice lane phase advantage. Onto your power spikes now. Level 1, I just covered that. Level 2 is also as strong, but the cooldown of E is quite long, so in a short burst, level 2 is strong, but not as strong as your level 1. Your next spike is level 4, which is when you have 2 points in your maxing ability, as well as having your W, which unlocks the ability to perform all of the combos from the abilities video. Next is level 6. Usually this is where you take flight and gain the ability to dominate certain matchups. For instance, in a Rise matchup, when you hit level 6, you basically just run him down every single time with gap closer, and he can't stop you because you ignore CC. A quick note is that the power spikes don't apply to your items. So obviously if you finish a Black Cleaver, you're going to have a power spike. I'm just strictly covering your levels, and that's pretty much it as far as that goes. This is a part of a series where I'm going to be breaking down Olaf from runes, masteries, matchups, lane phase, and everything else in between. This is going to go directly onto my Olaf guide. If you haven't seen it and would like to check it out, the link's going to be in the description below. If you are watching this from the guide, I have more content on the way. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoyed my guide, please also give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comment section below, or also on the guide, and I'll answer as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.